Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 45. There are 3 notable things that will happen in this video. 1. Will be the new farm fields around Kirkum. I have no idea if it will be enough to supply the fabric factories all year around, and to be honest, I would be astonished if it will be. Still, we got to start somewhere. The second thing will be the new plastic factory. Unfortunately, it will take a sizable chunk out of our already meager chemical production, so besides building the facility itself, I will also struggle to keep the chemical plant staffed. Which is related to the third big event, which is the opening of the new district in Mikaelovia. Now that the new farms are fully up and running, we can finally allow people to settle there. We will try to use the bus stop in that neighborhood to staff Electrograd. We will struggle for a while, but as more people settle there, things should improve. As usual, I will start by making sure that the steel mill construction is progressing at a steady pace. Ironically, the biggest problem we will have today is the lack of steel, which is the result of every ounce going towards Alexandrograd. Anyways, I will now finalize the different names in the list of transport routes, so they all use the same naming convention. This was the time where we could finally start using the new farms as a source of bread and meat. It was just a matter of adding the warehouse in Gemstonia as a source of food to the first rail distribution office. I wasn't sure how those deliveries were set up, so I ended up checking both rail DOs. Well, we are not quite ready to use the second animal farm just yet. We need to set up a commuter line first. Just FYI, this line's name is of course temporary. Well, since we are already harvesting, and the workers are on their way, we might as well tell the Mikaelovia freezer train to start using this new farm as a pickup point. Also, let's not forget that we don't want workers to toil away on the farm fields. We only want them to work in the meat processing buildings. Oh, right. I forgot that we need to add a livestock transfer service to this place. The slaughterhouse is not connected to the storage yard. Wait, wrong building. We need them to use the storage yard, not the livestock farm. Not ideal, but it will do the job. At least we have fresh meat waiting for pickup in the 2 freezers. Although, now that I saw that we have idle trucks sitting in the distribution office, I think I will delegate this job to it in the next episode. Okay, so I was ready to start moving goods to the vehicle factory, but for that, I'd like to use a distribution office. And sadly, both of the already existing offices are pretty much at their limits. We could have squeezed in these storages, but we need to build a 3rd office anyways, so might as well do it now. We only need to add a construction crossing on one side. Once the main building is done, the track layers will be able to roll through it. And now we can start placing the farm fields, which will supply the fabric factories in Kirkum. Fortunately, we have quite a bit of unused space available to use around the area. As it turns out, my guesstimate was correct. There was just enough room for 4 big fields behind the factories. Okay, let's see how far 12 fields will get us. Hey dum-dum, that's the gravel processor, go around. Now we just need to add the farm, the distribution office, and the grain silo. Let's start with the 3rd one. Nice and close to the factories will be best. And we have a nice big empty plot of land next to the gravel processor, that we can use for the farm and the distribution office. Now, I could have simply left these roads as dirt, but I thought the dumpers ferrying the raw stone from the quarries have been suffering enough, so I decided to upgrade it to gravel. Next, we can finally place the plastic factory. We can make our lives easier by building it in Electrograd, where we have chemicals and crude oil all ready to be used. Since there wasn't enough room next to the warehouse, we will need to use the local distribution office to move the chemicals, but the oil should be okay if we use underground pipes. Let's speed things up. Adding a couple temporary dirt connections will allow our construction offices to tackle the project from multiple sides. There, the dumper trucks are free once more. I remember the early days, when we were struggling to build these gravel roads. Now, they are done in a flash. And that's all it takes. The service connections are already obsolete. Hey, that fire reminded me that we have this empty plot of land, where one of the old small heat exchanger used to sit. Let's fill it with something nice. We already have a statue nearby, so let's not build another one. Thankfully, both the fountain and the monument are accessible by helicopters, so we can just let them build, and not worry about having to remove temporary connections later. As I've said before, the biggest hurdle we face today is the lackluster steel production. That's what will cause all these new constructions take way longer than necessary. If I was smarter, I would have stopped building the second steel mill until everything else was done. It's better to quickly finish half of the work, instead of doing everything slowly. Whoa, that monument is still not done? It's been a while since I placed it. And this is where I knew that our chemical production wasn't up to the job. I think we have the capacity, but lack the necessary workforce. To fix that, I decided to finally allow people to settle in the new district in Mikaelovia. We can use this side's bus stop for Electrograd exclusively. Unfortunately, we had less than 1,000 people waiting for apartments, so we are not even close to filling up this place, but over time, it will be done. I decided to go ahead and start using this bus stop right away. Of course, this means that our already struggling chemical industry will take a pretty big hit, but by the end of the episode, we will have a bigger number working in the chemical plant than before. It won't be fully staffed, of course, but we will be ahead of what we had previously. By the time all these houses are full, we should be having a fully staffed chemical plant. Anyways, this kindergarten is out of reach for some of the apartment blocks. Adding an extra footpath should fix the issue. To help people find better work, I decided to remove one of the commuter trains going to Ramosov. We are producing way too many building materials, so a single train should be enough. After finishing this small footpath segment, all new houses should be in range of the service buildings. Okay, the distribution office for the Kirkum farm is done. And the plastic factory too. To ensure better chemical production, I gave that factory a bit of a priority in the bus stop, so more workers will go there. I still left some percentage points for the other buildings, so they won't go without employees. And with that, all the houses can access the necessary services. We only need to get more people in, which will unfortunately take a while. For a bit, I decided to stop people from working in the lookout tower. But then I saw that it was only 10 workers, so I concluded that it's not a big deal. That amount of workers won't really affect the chemical plant. It's a bit of a shame that we ended up letting people in the autumn. People tend to stop having babies during winter for some reason, so we will need to wait until spring to see any meaningful increase in our population. I think using the concrete ground texture to fill in these front yard spaces is better than using gravel. In fact, I like it so much better, that I went ahead and replaced the ones we placed in front of the other blocks a couple episodes ago. And now begins the longest winter I've ever experienced in the game. Sure, it wasn't any longer than usual. But it sure felt like it. Okay. No point postponing it any longer. We are already short on chemicals, so it doesn't matter if we start using what little we have to make plastics too. We only need to tell the local DO to start moving chemicals to the factory. The oil is already being supplied by that underground pipe. We should also make sure to distribute it where it's needed. For now, only the electro components, and the radio factory needs it. Once that third rail DO is done, we will also need some at the vehicle assembly plant, but that will be used intermittently. Thanks to the lack of chemicals, we are far from ready to eliminate the plastic imports, but we are getting there. Okay, the grain silo is also done. Thankfully, we will be ready for sowing season. And that's the central farm done too. There. We have the buildings, we have fuel, we have vehicles, and we have fields. Hopefully, we can stop importing crops after the next harvest. Really happy to see the new animal farm working so well. The freezers are almost full. And it seems that second DO in the bread making side of Brooklyn paid off. The food factory's grain silos are full. My next attempt to boost the number of workers going to Electrograd was to tell that big block we placed all by itself, to only send workers to the bus stop. The smaller blocks can worry about staffing the services. At first glance, it made quite a big difference. But not big enough. We need more. I considered building another road maintenance depot in Kirkum. So far, we only have 2 of them, and while they are doing a relatively okay job, having more would be even better. Next to the gravel processor should be fine. I highly doubt we will be able to take advantage of it this winter, but should be ready to go for the next snowy season. The population increase really crawls to a halt during winter. We have less than 100 new citizens since the start of December. It's still increasing, but painfully slowly. It's always a bit of a pain to try find the exact center point of these road connections for the ground textures. Unfortunately, 45-degree angles are not really feasible. For best results, we should stick to using right angles on these decorative walkways. That looks pretty good, at least I think so. This time, I will only fill in half of them with monuments, the other half will have trees in them. Of course, I shouldn't be decorating during winter, the snow is obscuring a lot of the ground details. While we wait, I also decided to go ahead and buy some vehicle blueprints with rubles. There are of course a few machines that are better on the western side, but not everything. Okay, that's it for now. It's not the final list of course, I was just window shopping more or less. I think we are pretty much at the level of employment in the chemical plant that we started this episode with. But we need to do better. Let's see how we are doing in terms of plastic imports. Ever since we started producing, we only had to buy a single batch. It's good, but we need to do better. And as I said already, it's all down to staffing the chemical plant. This is where I finally decided to temporarily suspend construction on the new steel mill. It's eating a lot of our steel we produce, so it would be better to let the smaller projects finish, so at least those can start working. May sound a bit counterintuitive, stopping the construction of the steel mill, because we don't have enough steel. But, I think it's better to finish the easier constructions, so they can start working. If we kept dividing the workload, everything gets slowed down. The overall completion will happen at the same time regardless, but this way, the smaller projects will finish a little earlier. Anyways, now that we removed the Electrograd buses, and one of the Ramosov trains from the Mikaelovia train station, we have a bit of a crowding problem there. To fix it, we can reroute the internal commuter line, so instead of dropping off workers at the train station, they can do so at the new district instead. That should increase the productivity in the chemical plant another notch. In fact, it was so successful, that we can add a couple more buses to the Electrograd commuter line. A good problem to have. The wood cutting station is starting to eat through this small forest. Better replant it. In fact, let's do the same in Udograd as well. It's getting a bit sparse there too. We are obviously far from completely exhausting our wood supply, but why not do it now? I think I better stop building the mines too. They are only taking away the workforce from other things. One thing we can do to improve our steel situation is to build a couple more apartment blocks in Mutograd, near the train station. Of course, it will take a long time to fill them up, just like the new district in Mikaelovia, but spring is less than a month away. After that, we should see a better rate of increase. Now, I only noticed that these houses are out of range for the heat exchangers, so we will need to fix that as soon as possible in the next episode. Oh yeah, we had more workers at the bus stop than the buses can pick up. That's a good sign. Now, I am not 100% sure this house can reach every single important service building. We will need to keep an eye on it once it's done, and people are living in it. Finally, winter's over. We had less than 300 new citizens since the first snow fell. Hopefully, we will start to see a faster increase from now on. Spoiler warning, we will. The episode will end in early April, and we will have 17,200 citizens by then. Of course, they will need to grow up, and go through schooling first. Our prisons are close to their limits. After this latest housing boom, we might need to add a third one. Look at those workers. Almost 200, and the new district is nowhere near full yet. We should aim for a 80 to 90% range to satisfy the current domestic demand for chemicals, so we still have a long way to go. And the tractors are off to the fields. Once we have some crops ready to go, we can sell all the trucks currently importing, and rely on the distribution office completely. They only need to worry about the harvest during autumn. The rest of the year they can take care of moving the crops to the fabric factories. And this is a bit of a problem. These fields are too close to Mutograd, and people started working in them, instead of the town. Well, that's okay. Once the new water and traffic update is in the stable branch, we will have the tools to disallow pedestrians from using certain road segments, thus preventing them from reaching the fields. In the meantime, they can knock themselves out. Okay, now that winter is over, let's finish decorating this place. Okay, that's the framework done. As I've said, I will only fill in half of them with ground textures. The other half will have a bit of greenery in them. Well, that took long enough. We started building this rail at the start of the episode. This steel shortage is really starting to get serious. Alright, let's see what we can fill these paved spaces with. This playground is a bit too close to the house. We need to use road vehicles to build it. That's it for now. As usual, we need to wait to see how everything looks after all the trees and bushes grow up. Again, one of the biggest issues we have when it comes to staffing the steel mill is the lack of train route spacing. Such an important feature, still missing. Now that most of the other smaller projects are done, we can continue building the rest of Alexandragrad. The steel mill itself shouldn't be a problem. The main issue will be the mines. Those take a very long time to build, and we can only rely on the helicopters to ferry the workers over from Mikaelovia, since there is no road connection going up the hill. Although, we could use the cable cars. We can still add construction sites as workplace destinations, so if we started running a train, that could speed things up. So that's what's planned for our steel problems. Now that we have a healthy looking food supply, we should seriously consider fine-tuning things. At this point, we have so many systems working together, that I am fairly confident we can streamline some of the processes to make things go smoother. For example, we have quite a bit of unemployment problem in Mikaelovia, so sorting that out should be a priority. I've been on a pretty serious construction binge lately, so cutting back should help us catch up to ourselves a bit. Anyways, I hope you liked the video. If you did, dropping a like and subscribing to the channel just might motivate me to make more. Until then, see you later.